recent reads and some new books. First up, I read and reviewed the best of C M Kornbluth on Ira's channel, SF Words of Wonder, with Ira and Richard at Vintage SF, and that was a lot of fun. Then I read something I've been curious about for quite a while, and I think I got this about 2 years ago. John Shirley's City Come a Walkin', which I want to say this came out in 1980. Yeah, 1980. This is a first printing from Dell. Later printings have a foreword by William Gibson where he talks about this being like the proto cyberpunk, the true birth of cyberpunk. Not a true cyberpunk, but lots of cyberpunk elements, and he admits to consciously or subconsciously taking a few things from this, and that's pretty obvious. You got mirror shades, drug use, city life, something similar to an AI that the main characters interact with. But this is less a science fiction and more an urban fantasy. And indeed, it actually says Dell SF Fantasy. So this is a weird one. It takes place in San Francisco sometime in the future. I'm not sure if a year was actually quoted. Probably something ridiculous like 2018 or something. But we follow Stu Cole, who is a kind of like a shady nightclub owner, which is an interesting main character because he himself is not so shady. It's actually quite progressive. He's bisexual. He's pro everything. He's very tolerant. He has a conscience. For some reason, he used to be in politics, and for some reason he ends up running kind of like a shady dive bar. But he has a friend named Kat who is like the lead singer in a punk band. Actually, there is a name for the type of music that they play, but I'm not going to be able to find it. Angst rock. Yeah, Kat is the lead singer in a band that plays angst rock, and so she plays in his bar or nightclub. That's how they met. And the story kicks off when Stu just sees kind of a weird figure, a weird guy kind of in the crowd surveying things. And at first he wants to approach this guy and ask if he wants a job as a bouncer. And the two of them meet this guy, and it's not a guy at all. It is the city of San Francisco manifest. And we don't get a lot of answers right away as to how this can be. And indeed, it's kind of weird at first, and I was a little annoyed with this at first, but it is kind of cleared up how the two characters are pretty nonchalant about meeting a physical manifestation of a city in the form of a man. As soon as they find that out, they're like, oh, okay, cool. But later we find out that the city specifically came to them because they were the right type of personality. They're receptive to the extraordinary. So what the city is a manifestation of the collective unconscious of the city's population. And he really can only manifest at night when people are either asleep or watching television. That's when you're basically unconscious in either of those two scenarios, and he can kind of come into being, and he can take over a body and then change its appearance entirely, clothes, physical appearance, everything. That's how he gets around at night. But he can also manipulate things, and at first it kind of feels like an AI in a high-tech city manipulating computers, streetlights, automated cars. But it's more of an urban fantasy type thing. The city is manifesting for a specific reason. The world is getting smaller due to kind of the internet, a form of the internet, and credit cards and everything. This book really dates itself, but um, the city feels threatened by um, the interconnectedness of the world, how the world is really getting smaller, and to the point where people are going to be able to work at home from the computer. People are not going to have to gather in one area so much. And the city, and it's not just San Francisco, multiple cities are starting to see a future where humanity starts to spread out and the idea of a city kind of fades away. Kind of a global village. It's just going to be people scattered in small villages or just all over the landscape. And the idea of a city really won't be necessary anymore because you can work from home, you can order what you need from home. And without that close knit collective consciousness, the city will cease to exist. And the city of San Francisco has chosen Stu Cole to be its tool, I guess, which is a little unclear. It needs Stu to do things like break into some facilities and like assassinate certain people. The mob is involved in this globalization, this new technology that's been introduced to the city. The mob kind of has a hold on it, and the city wants to destroy them. But the city, at multiple times throughout the book, exhibits like supernatural powers. It can topple a building or move a street post so it appears, you know, a little to the left, and a car will hit it and kill the driver. So it's not really clear why the city needs Stu to get into a building and assassinate people when it could just send the elevator crashing down when the people it needs to kill are in it. But it's still a fun story. It is very proto-cyberpunk. There's a lot of angst and drug use and descriptions of city life, depression, these self-loathing characters, and then this entity which kind of feels like the AI from Neuromancer. It was really cool. I just had problems with the fact that the city shows abilities to really take care of this entire thing on its own. But there is some neat stuff here. And the way Stu Cole becomes addicted to helping city. He stops calling it the city and just refers to him as city. And he'll wait by his television screen for days and days, waiting for city's face to appear and talk to him and tell him what to do next. So you really see Stu Cole honestly descend into madness. At first, he thinks the city is benevolent and it's chosen him, and it really goes south. The city really couldn't care less. It gets really metaphysical at the end. I don't want to spoil it, but this is a really unique gem. If you're into cyberpunk, check it out. You can find on the internet the foreword that William Gibson wrote. It was pretty interesting. So, I don't know if this is a favorite of mine. It's certainly one I'm not going to forget. I would like to read more stuff like this. This is the kind of thing that would have been ruined if he wrote more books in this universe. So, yeah, this is one to check out. After that, I was in the mood for some Silverberg. I always enjoy his short story collection. I don't think I've read a short story collection of his yet that I didn't rate 3 out of 5, because there's always some good stuff and then some not so great stories, or some mediocre stories. There's nothing that's ever as great yet. Aside from Sailing to Byzantium, that was a really good, that's more of a novella, but I haven't really come across any of his short stories that hit me like his novels from his heyday in the 60s and 70s. I don't actually have much to say about it. The title story was one of the less interesting ones. Just as with every Silverberg short story collection, there's some good ones and some mediocre ones. This one had a lot of characters really coming to a dark end at the end. Caught in the Organ Draft was kind of a dark one, getting conscripted for giving up your organ for someone more wealthy than you. The Pain Peddlers was people who are terminally ill. A network will come in and film with full sensory hookups, their death so that people can watch it live on TV. And of course, the main character in there is kind of a network executive who comes to an untimely and well-deserved end. Probably the best story in this is The Overlord's Thumb, about a small human settlement on an alien planet who's just getting to know the native race. Just trying to see when that was published. 1957. A military leader of this expedition has this moral dilemma to solve when his nephew, who is a member of the like anthropology group or something, inadvertently commits a crime in the eyes of the natives, and our main character, the leader of this expedition, has to decide whether to kind of cover up this crime or let him be tried as any guilty alien in this society would be, or to try and cover it up, or it's really like, am I going to set a precedent here if I act like we are above the various races that we are coming into contact with? That was a good one, and it had a good ending. I liked that. So, not bad, Silverberg, and a great cover art on this Corgi edition. Then I read my second Thomas M. Disch. I first read The Genocides a couple years ago. Absolutely loved it. I think that was his first novel. This is Echo Round His Bones, which I got in a trade with Richard at Vintage SF. And this is about technology being developed to instantaneously transfer you from point A to point B. And when was this written? This takes place during kind of a Cold War. This was published in 1969. My copy's from 79. But there's like an uneasy truce between the Soviet Union and the United States. And Russia has put its weapons on the moon, whereas the US has put their weapons on Mars, and they've done this by using this instantaneous transfer. And so there's always a group of military personnel on Mars, and they get there using this teleporter. And when our main character, who's I can't remember what rank he is, but he's in charge of a group of men who are the next shift to hang out on Mars, basically, for a couple months. When he goes through the transporter, it seemingly breaks down. Nothing happens. And then he comes to realize he was transferred, but he himself is now a ethereal copy of himself. And he comes to realize that everyone who has ever used one of these teleporters has had a ghost-like copy of themselves created, and they cannot be seen, heard, or interact with anyone else on Earth. So he wasn't actually teleported, his ghost version. His ghost version remains on Earth, and he's immediately set upon by other ghostly remnants of people, military personnel who have gone to Mars, because there's nothing to eat or drink. They need to kill new ghosts and feed on them. And so our main character has to escape these guys and figure out how to survive as a ghostly entity. It was good until the very end. The ending got convoluted with various ghost versions of himself, and he ends up, him and some others end up saving the planet from nuclear war. But it gets very convoluted, but still, there are some crazy ideas in here. Thomas M. Disch was an awesome author, and I look forward to reading more of his stuff. This one took place in the far, far future of 1990, the year of my birth. I love reading stories that take place in 1990. So that was another good one. Then I went for a totally obscure book I've never heard anyone talk about. This is a French translation. This is The Mountains of the Sun by Christian Leourier, a French author. This might be the only thing he had translated. I did a little research. Didn't look like much else was translated. This has a great ad in the middle to encourage you to smoke. This was published by Berkeley in '73. and I think the story was first published in 71. And it is about 300 to 400 years after some global event kind of destroyed civilization on Earth, and the only survivors were people high up in the mountains and some people on Mars. And it's the story of Martians recolonizing Earth and coming into contact with the remnants of Earth, who are now hunter-gatherers. And we have 2 hunter-gatherer characters, one each from a different tribe. These tribes are in conflict, and then they run into the Martians. And it was a decent story. It was probably better in French, because I'm sure anything being translated is going to lose something in translation. But it was a decent story. I would have liked... It actually made me curious to read more by him, but of course I don't think any's been translated, but it seems like he's a celebrated French author. But I don't have much else to say. It wasn't that complicated a story. It was pretty simple. I will say the Richard Powers cover art, that's got to be Richard Powers, has absolutely nothing to do with the story. It doesn't depict anything, which could probably be said for most Richard Powers art, but it was a decent story. It felt like reading something that took place prehistory until the Martians arrived. And last up, my first Barry Malzberg experience, 22 short stories out from Ganymede. I hated every one of them. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I don't understand the hype. These were all awful. The unnecessary, like, shock sex scenes and violence, and the lots of stories that are experimental and gimmicky. I thought they all sucked. I know he's a celebrated, beloved author, but this was not good. On to the new books. I will give Malzberg another try, but it'll have to be a novel or something. So I recently read and enjoyed a bunch of Jack Chalker. I read the first, 5 Well-World books. This is number 4. I just wanted this because it's better condition than the one I have. These next few I got from Norm at the bookstore on Pluto, who I've mentioned before. I often get a few books every couple months from him. And another one, this is a standalone, Dancers in the Afterglow. I don't remember what this is. It takes place on some alien world with humans. It just sounded really, really interesting, and I would like to read a Jack Chalker standalone, because he wrote a lot of 5 or more book series, 4 at least. Huge multi-book series, which is not always something I'm interested in. Another I got from him, there must be a couple more here. Yeah, 2 more from Norm. I got a huge Silverberg here, Star of Gypsies. This is a Questor book. Not sure how I'm gonna feel about these more modern, like 90s Silverbergs after I read The Face of the Waters, which was not so great. It had all the typical Silverberg themes, but it was just bloated. And this has got to be, yeah, this is like 500 pages from the late 80s, but I'll collect every Silverberg. Any Silverberg I don't have, I'm on the lookout for. And the last I got from Norm is an Ace Double. I got the Anything Tree from John Rackham after Jack from Sci-Fi Finds mentioned this on his channel. This is probably what I'm going to start later today. And then on the other side, just one of Marion Zimmer Bradley's Darkover books, which I'm not interested in, but Jack really made this one sound quite intriguing. Another Silverberg, the Best Of from Pocket Books. Unfortunately, this thing is falling apart, but I'm excited to have this one. This was published by Pocket Books in '76. And there's honestly not that much in here. Hawksbill Station, which I've read the novel version. So the short story is probably better, to be honest. Yeah, there's not too much. I'm looking forward to that. A a W. Michael Gear. I have one of these. This is a huge series he wrote. Must have been the 90s. This is the first in the Forbidden Borders book series. Requiem for the Conqueror. Some massive space opera. No idea when I'll ever commit to something like this. But I've read a few of his books now and really enjoyed them. So anytime I find something of his I don't have, I'm interested in picking it up. And just a few more. Arthur C. Clarke, The Lost Worlds of 2001, which turns out I already have, but I think this is in slightly better condition. I can't remember if this is short stories. I think this is some short stories and then a lot of just talking about the making of the movie and other stuff. Or actually, this might just be the whole story of 2001, from the short stories that spawned the idea to the movie and the novel. But I'll be getting rid of that since I already have it. And I'm just going to insert this here. These are a few books I acquired after filming this video. Very happy to find, although this is in rough shape, a Barrington J. Bailey book from Dog Collision Course. I absolutely love what I've read of Bailey, which, let me see here, what do I have? The Fall of Chronopolis was absolutely awesome. A wild time travel, multiple dimension type story. Haven't read Star Winds, but I have read a bunch of his short stories, and there's a few I always return to, like Mutation Planet, and I think the other one is The Bees of Knowledge. I've been reading his short stories lately, and they're just incredible. They start out very basic, you know, like a guy stranded on an alien planet after crashing his ship or something, and then they just become very thought-provoking and philosophical. So I wanted to read more by him. His stuff is hard to find. That's been my experience. But I found this Da, but it's rough, very rough. Isaac Asimov's universe. This is some series, some world he created, and then authors wrote stories that take place in it. And I mean, it's not your typical authors. I mean, we have Poul Anderson, but a lot of people I haven't read anything by. George Alec Effinger, I've read his. He's got a very unique, like Middle Eastern cyberpunk trilogy that's really good. But I picked this up. This is the second. I don't know how many of these there are, but I have the first one as well. Slightly different livery. These must be different publishers. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know much about the world building. It just seems interesting. So when I find these for cheap, I'll pick them up. But like I said, I don't know how many there even are. A Jack Chalker, Downtiming the Night Side. I think this is a standalone, and like I said, I'm interested in reading some standalones of his. And then a total random, I haven't heard of Stephen R. Boyett before. I just really loved this cover art. It sounds kind of interesting. It's like a portal fantasy, I think. Average guy ends up in an alternate reality where raccoons are bipedal and have a civilization, and I think he arrives in the middle of a revolution or something. So, never heard him or this, but the cover art and it just sounds like a fun story. So, and two more, a real random here. Christopher Rowley, The War for Eternity. What's it say here? A gripping novel of interstellar war. I only picked this up because I already have 2 books by him, and I think whether this is part of a series or the other 2 are part of a series, I don't know, but they all had matching liveries and cover art. Could be good. This is from Ballantine, Leourier Ballantine, 1983. Cover art by Ralph McQuarrie. Yeah, I believe this is about humanity on an alien planet, living quite peacefully with the alien race that lives there. until a military faction of Earth shows up and they have to fight them off or something. And the last one, another random really, this is Malzberg de Camp, Rivers of Time. This is not something I would ever have looked at if it weren't for Richard, Ira, and I reading the best of Malzberg de Camp, which had one of the better stories, and that was 1956's, from 1956, A Gun for Dinosaur, which was about a time-traveling company that would take you back to various eras of the Jurassic and Jurassic whatever, and hunt for dinosaurs. And then I guess the story was so popular that he wrote several other stories featuring the character and different shenanigans when he takes clients into the past. So several stories in this one. And I mean, Malzberg de Camp, I've read a bunch of his short stories now, and I mean, they always have a touch of humor. So when I need some light reading, I will check that out. And that's it. I think probably my next read will be The Anything Tree. I did film the bookshelf tour and then decided I didn't like it. So I still need to get around to re-filming that. I'm just not feeling so great these days. Hence, very little reading, very little videos. I don't see any end to the limited videos these days. But thanks for watching, as always. Stick around for more sporadically uploaded videos. Thanks.